Steiny, Steinberg.
Ladies and gentlemen, watching here live from the fabulous Limelight Hotel and Resort in beautiful Aspen, Colorado, and the dozens watching around the world, welcome to the interview of Luba, Shapiro, and Dreskin, or simply the LSD experience. Introducing first, the founder of Madison House, where he built string cheese incidents into a household name, and sued Ticketmaster in federal court for antitrust violations. Later helped launch the career of the Zac Brown Band. Then discovered kids are big box office by touring Yo Gabba Gabba. And now focusing on being a concert promoter where he exclusively books the Forest Hills Stadium and produces the Gentleman of the Road tour with Mumford & Sons, as well as producing the Dead 50 reunion shows. This is Mike fucking Luba! Direct your attention to one of the smartest Jews in the room. A true pioneer of music meeting technology. Currently running one of the biggest free music festival in North America, V-Fest, and credited with selling the first online ticket ever. That really deserves some applause. Sold his own company not once, but twice. The brains behind Ticketfly and the godfather of online ticketing, Andrew Dreskin. Finally, the owner of the historic NYC Wetlands, Relic Magazine. The Relic Magazine. Capitol Theater, Portchester, the Locking Festival, the mind behind Dead 50, and the owner of 3 and soon to be 4 Brooklyn Bowls. No one has made more money off of Brooklyn hipsters than this man. Mr. Peter Shapiro! When we first announced the session earlier this year, the concept was the guys to watch taking the reins as the new generation steps up. However, since then, Luba and Chappie confirmed, announced, and produced the biggest music events of the year, Fare Thee Well, producing north of $55 million in gross revenue sales. Not to be outdone, Andrew's company Ticketfly just sold to Pandora for $450 million in the past few weeks. Safe to say that they have already grabbed a firm reins on leading the industry. So let's pick their brains for a little while, and then we'll open it to the room for questions. Mike, you and Dreskin's relationship dates back to him crashing on your couch in Boulder during the start of String Cheese Incidents ticketing. It's like really the first artist ticketing in the early days. Can you talk about how you guys came together and how you guys created that?
Thank you, Dan. Well, the reason Andrew was crashing on my couch was because this fucking ticket system never worked. And I kept trying and trying and trying. And that's when I fell in love with him. And it's been a long road since, but yeah, that's how it really started. I think Andrew had a really good idea and opened a bunch of doors and was accountable.
It's working now, right?
Yeah, it works. It works.
So it was about 20 years ago now, a little less than 20 years ago. It's hard to believe it's 20 years since the first online ticket got sold. That was December of 1995, the venue was at the bottom of the hill. And yeah, now looking back, I mean, so many of the folks in this room are very intimately knowledgeable about artist ticketing. But, you know, when Mike and I first started doing this together, there was no artist ticketing. So the first bands in the world to sell tickets online, String Cheese Incident was one of them. Toad the Wet Sprocket was another. I don't know if folks remember Toad, very early on. Yeah! Sell tickets online. So yeah, so I used to journey to Boulder, and we were putting String Cheese's ticketing online. to what Mike is referring, invariably every time we went on sale, the thing would just tumble over. We had pretty much no idea what we were doing. None of us had any idea what we were doing at that time, but we finally figured it out.
I can tell you, we'd have fun experiences where we'd get calls in the office from a college kid who was like, hey man, I just tried to order one $30 ticket and instead got charged $30,000. Defaulting on that college loan. What am I supposed to do? And then I call in and be like, it's couch time, dude.
It's amazing how far we've all come from those days. So looking back on that, when I think about why did it not work all the time, well, here's the official diagnosis. One server in a closet connected to the internet via an ISDN. That was how online ticketing started. Needless to say, it's not surprising why it never. It worked most of the time, but I spoke here a couple years ago, and I shared some of those war stories. There were plenty. You think that was bad, man? You should have seen the Spice Girls on sale in the UK. The entire tour. That did not go well. Yeah.
So the Brooklyn Bowl was the very first ticket fly client. How did you bag that elephant?
Well, this is
So we remember it the same way.
Yeah.
I should write it on a piece of paper.
Oh, you want?
Take this one. No, you go.
So this was definitely the most interesting ticketing deal I've done in my career. So what I remember about the sort of culmination of this is Pete and I met on the corner of White and 12th.
11.
And White and 11 in Brooklyn. It was 11 and 12. White and 11 in Brooklyn. And this was 6 months before Ticketfly had software. And this was 6 months before the Brooklyn Bowl was going to open its doors. And we shook hands on the corner and we said we're going to do this together. And Brooklyn Bowl was the first venue. Interestingly, the first event we ever sold a ticket for was the Lebowski Fest, which I think there's something beautiful in that. But yeah, and then dovetailed into the birthday party, which was the next one.
It's important to test out a new venue. New venues are tricky because you don't really know
Soft open.
how it works, certain things until you do it. Anything, a new festival's hard because there's always things you learn after that first day, and you try to prove it. So we made a call. We weren't licensed. I was warned to probably not do this by our liquor attorney. We didn't have a liquor license, but we wanted to do some kind of run. We wanted to warm the room up, test it out. So Andrew had his bring 100 people.
So this is my 40th birthday. So I called Pete and I said, hey, can we do the party at the Brooklyn Bowl? He says, there is no Brooklyn Bowl. 6 months away from opening the construction site, there were 8 of 16 lanes and no doors on the bathrooms, no heat in December. I told Pete it was going to have 50 people.
So the day of the party, he was like, I set up an e-bike. Dude, there's 450 people on there. And that's what's, it's great to work with friends, and I think we all do. We're with all the friends it is. But there's no questions, there's moments when you have tension with a friend.
Was that a test moment?
Yeah, I've had several. You guys might allow my ticketing. And so that's why you use an outside ticketing provider also. When shit goes wrong, you want to blame someone else. Yeah, you do it yourself. You blame yourself. So, and I tell that a lot of people I think now are looking at, it's no surprise to you, technology is moving ahead, and sometimes you can do your own ticketing. But that's really dangerous when you have a big on sale. You want it to go flawed, so you have to look at the pros and cons.
Yeah, listen, as you can imagine, I would argue the other side, which is, the DIY ticketing model has really not been. Anyone who's really tried DIY, there's 90% of those folks have moved off of that model because high demand on sales, because it's not static. There's constantly new technologies coming down the pike. And, as a company with 170 people or 400 people or 80 people going to be better at harnessing that stuff, or is, you know, I mean, it's not, we tell folks, you know, ticketing is not, we tell promoters, ticketing is not the important business. Producing great live events is your important.
I mean, I don't just go to get the shoe boxes from record stores. I pray to God every day you go no matter what. Peter, can you talk about the concept behind 2 sets a night that started out at Wetlands and you rolled into Brooklyn Bowls by a headliner?
Well, I mean, obviously, it started really Grateful Dead and began that culture before Wetlands opened in 1989. But the guy who created Wetlands, Larry Block, did have a real rule. You know, if you want to play on a weekend at Wetlands, you're going to play 2 sets. And if you ask bands like, well, I think they would, a couple other bands have said to me like that Wetlands had an influence on that. That was a band, a place you wanted to play, and that circuit of the early 90s, and the growth, the mid-90s, the growth of jam scene. If you wanted to play Wetlands, you were going to play 2 sets. And it wasn't just, obviously it helps with this stuff, you know, but it's about interaction. You know, when you go, it's funny, I own this great club, Wetlands, but it was, people would come up to me and I loved it, you know, but when it was over, people didn't love it so much. Because the sidelines weren't great, and the air wasn't great, there were colors, but that forced
The stage was fucking small.
right, everything was fucked up.
We're romanticizing about that now, so.
But you interact, it forced you to go downstairs to the basement with your friend. Forced you to go to the bar and spend time with people. And so I meet so many people saying, you know, I met my best friends there. I met my wife there. And now, there's other great rooms in New York, and I'll call them out because they're better technical rooms than Wetlands. Bowery Ball, perfect room, perfect sightlines. I don't think people really meet their wife there, or having their best friend. You're just watching the show. And probably rarely 2 sets. So
The girls that use there is just a random hookup, that's not something you're doing.
people get, I wish there were more people that didn't say, I took acid for the first time when I was 15, 16 at Wetlands. That doesn't mean, that was before my time.
You know what we realized today is that this conference is a lot like the Wetlands of conferences, because I think Pete and I actually met here. Is that,
You think in 1996.
Was that
So a great venue is a place where you can go experience the show. But I think at Wetlands, when you were back by the bar, you couldn't see the stage that well, but you could hear the music. You could be with your friends. You did interact. And when we came up with Brooklyn Bowl, the idea was to have both. Great sightlines, if you wanted it, but also a village. You know, a place to go experience different things with people, and hang out, and
Chicken ain't that either.
and the chicken. You know, it's about multiple sensory input. You know, technology. It's not so much. People ask about the bowling, but I'm a film guy. It's about that dimension from your eyes to our screens. Is about probably 120, 30, 40, 50 feet, 100 feet wide. You don't get that effect unless you're like Epcot. And that's a powerful visual, especially when you're seeing the show live IMAX. But you can't do that without the bowling lanes to give you that physical distance. If it was empty, it would look weird. So the bowling really was a way to enable that visual effect.
Let's do a speed round. Just look at your personal preference, you can't say both. Luba, better promoter, Michael Cole or Michael Rubino?
I'm not cold without a fucking.
Peter, better performer, Jerry or Trey?
Jerry.
Jerry, without a fucking.
Andrew, keep kosher or eat bacon?
Bacon.
Come on, Steiny. Peter, the opening of the next Brooklyn Bowl in Chicago is coming up pretty quick. Yes. Can you bring down my mic? Was that inspired by the success of Fairly Well and how well Chicago treated you?
No, we were planning, you know, if you look at a venue that's, you know, something about rock and roll, you know, visuals, so watching sports, it's got fried chicken, bowling, it does well in cold weather. You know, you put Chicago ahead of New York. I mean, Chicago people, they love it. Great history of music, great history of food, great history of beer, great history of life. You know, that visual thing we talked about works really well on Sunday afternoon when you put the game on a PA system. hands on all those visuals. So we thought from the beginning, Chicago, it's cold. Our numbers, I don't know about you guys in the business, but Brooklyn Bowl in the winter, you know, it's just very powerful. And we open during the day. We created something where we can have events in the wetlands, opening at 8 o'clock, and having people come at 9 o'clock, or opening the doors at 7 or whatever, and come 8:30. And if you didn't have a great night, you're just fucked. You know, at a rock club. So created something where we open at noon, and we'll do kids, and we'll do football games. And you know, at first everyone said, "Oh, you're fucked with sound check on Saturdays with kids running around. How do you get a real band to sound check?" And you know what? Bands, kids, 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds running around. And you'll see top 10. You know, they ended up loving it. And we just think Chicago. It's like the response. Chicago is such a good town because we saw. I don't think there was another place in America for the Fare Thee Well shows that would have reacted like it did. There were 40, 50 shows a night in Chicago events after the Soldier Field shows. We had nothing to do with it. They just popped out. We did San Fran, we were a little outside of nothing. New York, which is from a great city, but the response, like restaurants, had dead flags everywhere. Hotels were playing dead music in the lobbies. Taxi, and we said in the press, you know, try to turn it on for a taxi driver, and they did. They embraced it, and they did. You know, it worked so well for everyone, and the police. We had just a couple, and you know, and so Chicago is just a great town.
We'll talk more about the dentist stuff. That's obviously a big topic. What to say about the desserts? Andrew, you sold the first online ticket ever, or as Jason Miller says, you ruined the camping out experience for the next generation. How does that feel?
That's right. Yeah, Miller does this hysterical, like, you know, how do you look at yourself? You have deprived every kid in America from knowing what it's like to sleep online for AC/DC tickets. Yeah, that is collateral damage.
But can we do some of that? Is there a mix? Like where we
Oh,
all
I mean-
back some, like we try, you know, just wondering against that. We've seen various ways people want to go back.
Yeah, like vinyl, like it could be right there.
I think that's a pretty good idea. I mean, I read the other day in the New York Times that like people are lining up for Star Wars, you know, 9 days in advance. You know, advertise it here.
You just think of yourself, how can I sell those fuckers tickets?
I think people would prefer that, want to do that, and just sit at home. We'll talk about the I think we saw some of that reaction. I mean, they want to go get
Yeah,
tickets.
look, I mean, I think if we all figured out a way to offer this type of experience to kids who are rabid about a band, I think that could be cool.
Why not the venue, right?
Right. It would be. There's no more record store to left. Well, there's a couple. We could line up at the venue. We're gonna carve that out. Thanks for this.
Like Madison House and Street and Cheese seem to be the blueprint for modern day 360. What inspired that?
A combination of stupidity and self-defense, probably.
Can you elaborate?
Yeah, when we started, anytime we would farm something out, it would inevitably get botched, and then we realized that we were fully capable of botching it just as well ourselves. And at least that when we kind of run down the hall and be like, "Hey, dipshit, we botched it, fix it," as opposed to trying to track people down. So there was no master plan really, but over 15 years, it kind of, for us being, like, at the end of the day, being accountable for your own actions and decisions was, we were going to live and die by that.
These guys, they were the first ones doing the 360 thing. I remember those days when I would go to visit you, and they had like the travel agency in the next room, and then it was like the record label and the agency and all this stuff. And I thought it was interesting also how when you went to work with Michael Cole, he sort of plucked you out of that because you had that expertise. And I think that was really the first time.
Yeah, I think for him it was probably an equal combination of stupidity and all over again.
Andrew, you sold Ticket Web to Ticketmaster. retired, saw a hole in the market, re-entered it. With Ticketfly, how are you able to go to the coolest venues in the country and get them all to re-sign after selling to Ticketmaster in the first place? Well,
That was,
very good question.
you know, look, the reality is as much as, I mean.
Well, no, it was impressive. They all did. Like almost
Yeah, no,
everybody came back.
I'll get to that, I'll get to that.
I'm not completely fucking, but yeah.
I'm some accolades on my competitor. You know, look, this room is, I think, testament to the fact that, you know, this sort of aversion to Ticketmaster is in some ways, you know, make-believe, right? Sure, the public has an aversion because of the, you know, the service fees, but we all know why service fees are where they are. And then, you know, if you look at the promotion community, there's less of an aversion. So I think that answers, you know, some of the question as to how we, you know, how we did it again. The thing is, though, I think it's worth pointing out that when we founded Ticketfly 8 years ago, there was a need that just wasn't being met. You know, the view on ticketing 2.0 was that it wasn't ticketing, but it was really sort of powering all the technology infrastructure. You know, we said to ourselves, like, why is the website separate from the ticketing? Like, isn't the website the ticketing? Like, that is, so why would you have a website that's not your ticketing? So, you know, we built a website platform, email, you know, the first integrations into Facebook and all that stuff. And that was why people came.
It's impressive, like, the system being developed to the point where people were immediately ready to leave. And there's some people took time, but it certainly happened.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not following you.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those guys went to the other system, were on TicketWeb, but eventually they didn't come immediately. A lot of them, there's very few independent clubs, and you guys have the majority of the clubs in the country on your system.
I mean, many have come over, but, you know, we're not the only ones that have cool clubs. There are lots of great venues out there, and some stay with the Ticketmaster.
He wants to shrinking. Anyway. Peter, how does the Lockton Festival differ from other music festivals, and what's your role as a partner?
Well, I'm just someone who loves going to music festivals, went to every Bonner for a while, and ended up, you know, just on like Wetlands, couldn't watch the stage, just be on a bus with your friends because there's so much going on. And it's like, do we go see Wilco over here, Ryan Adams over here, or this band, even there's when it was just, same a lot, there's so much happening. So it's almost overwhelming. And then you just retreat and just hang out in the corner, you know. So the idea was locking is there's just one field and 2 stages. And one band plays at a time. And also you notice that you go to these big festivals when the band stops, you can hear the music from the other stages. That'd be annoying, you know. You're just walking back and forth. I mean, you can always stay on the bus and go walk a lot at the end of the day. And I just thought, let's try to do it a little differently. And one fluid day, you don't have to really move. And also embrace the music I love. And God bless the DJs, and pop music, and EDM, and all the stuff happening. But we just were like, let's get Tom Petty, let's get Willie Nelson, let's get the Allman Brothers, let's get Gary Clark or St. Paul, String Cheese, and let's do interesting things. Where we did the String Cheese, the Doobies, and with the Doobie Brothers, and a lot of collaborations. We had Garrett Trucks, Dreskin Trucks do the Mad Dogs and Englishman tribute. We got a lot of the original people to come out. And it's just a rock and roll festival. Taj Mahal in the woods, late night. That's our late night. I like the DJ stuff, it's fun too, late night. But to see Taj Mahal in the woods in Virginia at 1 in the morning, that works. Some lasers help too. We did hot tuna, you know, we did hot tuna. We thought hot tuna in the woods, I mean at late night. But so listen, it's not easy. It's like a new venue, launching a new festival, that kind of festival. It's easy. If you look at the other big festivals, you notice a lot of the festivals, if you take the name off the festival, you take the name off Outside Lands, Lollapalooza, ACL, you know, Bar and Cup, they're all awesome experiences. But they're the same. They're very similar. A couple of years ago, Outkast played every single one. Last year, Kendrick. If you look, there's a lot of, and even in the middle of the festival, Nothing against that, but we wanted to create something locking it, that meant something that had this kind of, it was just, had a bit of an identity. So you could take the name off and see the lineup, and be like, oh, that's locking.
To the community, anytime they see a festival, they go, fuck, that's locking. It's gotta be. It's gotta be not outside.
Mike, you brought the historic Forest Hills tennis stadium back to life the last few years. Tell us the story behind that.
I can tell you the shorter version of it.
Probably makes sense, wouldn't it?
So for those of you who don't know, Forest Hills was the original home of the U.S. Open. It's about 12 minutes outside of Manhattan. In
What time of day?
twice an hour.
Spoken like a promoter. That
I'm sorry, 14.
was I love the place. I did a show there today.
Yeah, it's a place that had incredible history, super good juju, and it was just sitting there. It was,
Seems like the market's taking to it.
it's a magic, special place, and I give a lot of credit to Jay Marciano and his crew for giving us the latitude when once we got it up, he came out, and there's no one who really understands music in New York maybe better than Jay. And he was like, look, Schmuck, if you can make it happen.
You saw Jay's face, I don't know if anybody else can see it.
He was like, look, it's a fight worth fighting for, and he's had our back every step of the way. We did one show the first year, we did 5 shows the second year, we did 10 shows last year. And this year, if the chips fall right away, we'll be up to 18 or 20 shows, and that's about what it's meant to be. And it's New York, LA has the Hollywood Bowl, and that's what this was meant to be. This was a place where the Stones played, the Who played, the Beatles played, Frank Sinatra played, Streisand played. The doors open for Simon and Garfunkel. Super. If you look back on it, it's just super bizarre stuff, and it's a spot that was worth protecting. And to their ultimate credit, it's owned by this wacko tennis club, which has a couple hundred members, and they had huge offers to just sell off this piece of property, knock it down, and put up a condo. And really, the little old ladies at the West Side Tennis Club said, over our dead bodies, which could be any minute. They opened the window for us to come in, and I'm really proud of it. It's a special place. I'm proud.
I asked each of our guests what the first album they ever bought was. Peter told me his first album ever was Billy Joel's Greatest Hits Volume 2. So I bought you this down. Andrew sent me a list of 5 different albums, being the overachiever that he is. Right? So I picked Yes and Fragile because that was my favorite. Well, Luba, you didn't fucking respond to me when I asked you. But I decided to go with the Allman Brothers' Laugh at Philharmonic. I thought it was super overrated.
There you go.
I miss them. The art, memorizing liner notes, and how great they have little J's on. It started to make me think, between the 3 of you, who could roll the best J? This is amazing to me. Judging on speed, how solidly well constructed they are. Since we're in Colorado, it seemed like I could get away with this. And then we'll try to get it cleared to make sure we wouldn't get in trouble. I learned that we would get kicked out of the hotel and not be able to come back for future years, and Jim said over his dead body. So instead I brought back a favorite of mine, Truth or Patron. And let me explain the game real quick. Each of our guests will get a question that might be a little harder than any other question they've gotten so far. So they can take the shot as a mulligan, or they can answer the question moving on. Or they can be a true badass and answer the question, do the shot, as I'm sure this Aspen Live audience would reward them for that. I've never seen anything I wouldn't ask Ben to do, so salute motherfuckers.
Jeff, why don't you hand him each one of those?
There's no
No, I gotta say, Andrew's pretty sure he had the skills here.
Andrew can eat next, to see better.
Let's play my game. Andrew, how much, in US dollars, please, was your personal take home from the Pandora set?
Clearly drinking.
He was negotiating over the price of an $18 vape pen. Luba, all the acts you've represented, whose musical talent do you least respect? Maybe take a shot.
Take a shot. He knows.
Chappie, if you could get rid of any one competitor, no questions asked, you get away with it, who would it be and how would you do it?
I hate competitions. You know, in Williamsburg, I would just normally just say all of them, but that's, I mean, these guys are, I'm gonna fucking do it. Now, there is a new band, so we weren't first in Williamsburg. There was a street, or 6th Street, it had been heavily populated, we moved in, but we were very early. We were first really in an area of North Williamsburg, again, in North City. We're on North 11th and 12th. We were, there was nothing next to us. There was an abandoned building where there were squatters. It's now like the hottest hotel in New York called the White Hotel. And there's just huge growth around us. Everyone always goes, oh, do you have a piece of the White? They're like, I don't. You talk about those numbers early on. I'll tell you one thing about our business. The big numbers, I mean, they're big and they're great, but they always, you know, you've usually spent the money that comes down on something else. But there's a new venue that just opened. Most of them are dance clubs that have opened around us. We don't mind those. Output, big time, you know, dance clubs. Because we're getting all the European tourists and all that in Europe. But a little live music, a live music venue opened. It's like, we love live music in small, but they're taking the same acts and doing it over there with food, which is a little bit annoying. So normally we wouldn't say that, but I am in the spirit of actually saying something. This is for our new friends, our new neighbors. We're going to try to pull the same bands that we've been doing for 6 years over. But it's all good. It's called like MP Hall, but it's all good. But you know, it is competition. Like you've been doing it. We're an institute thing in New York. It just, our best year will be this year, but you know what? It's still, when you're on the phone with an agent, and you're hearing the band, you know, it's going to play here, there's another off, you know, anyone here has been doing this with us, it's a little bit, it's not a big deal, it's a little annoying when someone, they're like, we're going to go over here, and they're like, we've been doing shows for all these years. But that's their job.
The business competitive?
Nope.
Is our business competitive?
That's all.
How would you come in?
How would I what?
How would you come in? That's part 2 of the question.
Oh, yeah.
I know that we do. I always joke with our staff, you know, that if a stink bomb went off, we didn't know anything about it. A stink bomb goes off in this place now, no big problem. We would never do anyone, you know, we love, it's fun to joke about this stuff. But let's be clear, more live music is a good thing. And unfortunately, the world we live in New York, I got pushed out of wetlands in real estate, you know. I know what it's like. And we're pushed to do a new venue. I'm doing one with Jay. We have a Brooklyn Ball in London. If you look at the great venues in London, you know, Electric Ballroom, Brixton Academy, Shepherd's Bush, you know, go down just the list. They're all 50 years old. You can't go build a new venue in London. But we're going, so what you do is you push to the outside to where you can. We built a big 1,000 pound.
12 minutes outside of the hatch.
I say we're like 16.
Yeah, they're all great sports. Thanks for giving a hand. Thanks for playing, guys. It's so cool. Andrew, you had the 4 full rounds of funding. Were you always
You got
planning on
diluted
selling?
a lot. So we can't get that much.
I'm starting to see a theme here.
Were you always planning on selling?
Is this truth or patrol?
Lie to me, baby.
No, I mean. This is what I do say. So I get asked this question once a week, you know, for the past 8 years, and what I tell everybody is everything's for sale.
Exactly.
You know, but the right price came along and the right vision came along. When I started to sort of delve into what, you know, I knew a little bit about Pandora. We talked for a couple of years, but when I really started to understand the magnitude of this platform, I mean, you know, roughly 80 million monthly active users, 25% of the United States population, #1 radio station in 36 U.S. markets. #1 in mobile engagement. A lot of people don't know this. Okay, never mind. I'm going to read it. No, so look, everything's for sale, and this was for sale.
What is the vision?
So the vision is to take the largest online music platform in the United States and to meld that with live events, and to sort of tackle the event discovery thing, to tackle the data thing. So here's an interesting one I want to share with this group. This is quite interesting. So promoter that you all know, who will remain nameless, great promoter, came to us and said, we don't work together today, but we hope to work together soon. He said, I have a show. I've got 3 nights of an act that's flagged. Can you help me? And so we said, yeah, you know, we'll put into place a program to try to, you know, market to Pandora's user base. So initially we took a look at this act and how its profile and presence was in this market. We realized the act it's a dog in that market. The promoter's doing 3 nights of this act. And so this is just a great example of how, you know, if we sort of fast forward 6 months, 9 months, had we been able to surface this information to him going in, he wouldn't have bought this act for 3 nights in that market. So there's sort of an example of the vision.
Buyers I've been with them forever. I've never.
Start tomorrow.
Well, this is the Pandora thing, as you know, this is one example of sort of surfacing better data for promoters, harnessing the power of the platform. It just means 8 billion stations. Here's another interesting one. So I'm skipping ahead, so maybe we'll we can condense, right? But so here's a little known fact. So 80% of the top music artists in the world have a bigger Pandora presence than Facebook and Twitter. And in many cases, Facebook and Twitter combined.
Yeah.
So take Drake. Take Drake. Drake has 51 million Pandora stations, and roughly, I won't get the numbers exactly right, but roughly 25 million Facebook likes, or 30 million, or 25 million Twitter followers. 51 million Pandora stations.
And you define a station by anybody puts his name in the list.
Yeah, they've created a station.
But other artists could be on that list.
Yeah. Yeah, everyone's got 20 stations.
Well, no, these are actual someone with intent.
25 stations.
Oh, of course, they have time, they could have.
No, but you could have a station with 20 artists in it, as long as Drake is listed in it.
No, this is,
Okay, hold on. Let's focus back.
He's got it.
Yeah, so this shows intent. They've gone and they've said, I want to create a station around Drake. Now, of course, other artists get played on that station. But, I mean, these are just some examples.
Is that true? Is that really 51?
It's true. I can pull my laptop and.
A lot of confused out there. All right, let's talk about fairly well. So let's get into that. So you've had a couple people in the so. Can you tell us about where you guys were at the night it confirmed? And this came from Don Sullivan, actually, in particular. What Phil's camp, in particular, how they brought that around the night where you guys were at, what happened the night it confirmed. I know there's a story there, Don. Put that up there. Either of you.
I know I was in Las Vegas. It was right after the New Year. I was there for the Roots. We thought there were some over the New Year issues, and they got resolved. And they got an email from Jill Esch that had a photo of my rights, and it said, you know, buckle up, boys. It's all, you know, buckle up, kids. Buckle up. So, and that was January, we did it in July. You know, it was a buckle up right away. And just getting there was a buckle up. It took probably 6 months to get it to January's confirmation. And we were all, like, almost there, of course. And it went away and came back a couple times. And, you know, when you care about something a lot, it helps to not, you know, when you have the personal, most people here have are in this because they love going to shows. They love listening to music. You know, it really helped us, I think, me, with the relationship we had. And they saw that, not give, you know, just keep going until it's a yes. You know, just not accept when it was a no. You can get a no, but, you know, you can also keep fighting back until it's a yes.
And I heard this, you know, I know everybody wants to hear about the rainbow, but I think the pot of gold at the end of that was the concept. And I heard you started trying and attempting this in Dead 40.
I did. I didn't get very far. And that shows also, like, now I've been, 10 years later, I've done a lot more shows with each of them. People ask, how did this happen? How'd you get that gig and this? Well, because I've done a lot of shows with each of them. And that Cream Ride, you know, and you have to do that. You know, if I hadn't had that lucky ability starting in wetlands at the Capitol, I've done 52 shows of film, something like that. You know, just at the Capitol. So you can show an artist when you do a show with them. You guys all know you have examples, or you work with an artist. They know you. They know how you respond when there's an emergency Saturday morning, or you know how your staff deals with the consequences, how your sound is, your light, everything about it. So if you have that experience with them, that's pretty big.
You guys came together to do this together. You decided when it's come together, two of you worked that out, that you were going after it together. How did that go about?
We just know each other forever. We were able to bring different things together. You know, I had certain relationships with the guys from my venues to be able to put it together, but I needed Mike, where he had Don Sullivan, as Mike's partner, Mass House Presents, who produced the last Dead show in '95 at Soldier Field. And Mike and I that's an example, like, when you can be really close friends and work together, you can cut through a lot of shit. You know, it's just being able to talk the same language, and I needed a partner. And they were the first choice, Mike and Don. And it helped that they were also with Jay and AG, I'd done some other stuff before. And I don't think if I could go back, I would still do the same thing partner with them. We did it together. And that's part of doing this game, is knowing what you can do, and then knowing where you need help. And putting on stage 3 nights in the beach, these kind of level shows, I need to part of this.
You talked about
Just as a bizarre aside, I kind of wish he was here, but to Don Sullivan's immense credit, the night that we got the confirmation, poor Don was in a community meeting in Colorado, in Salida, where we were working on a Mumford & Son show. And he was literally, I could hear him, because we were kind of on the phone, because it was a very strange night. But Don was engaged in a community meeting in Colorado with a woman who was a peacock farmer. He was basically about to kneecap this entire thing that we were going to do for 20, 30,000 people in the middle of the hills of Colorado. So poor Don's trapped at this community meeting. Shappy's with the Roots in Vegas. I'm sitting in New York, and it was a very odd, it was an odd and odd night.
Why Chicago?
We talked, that's a good question. Well, A, it's the last place they played.
Luba's up here. You're right, it's the last place they played.
Last place they played. 20 years to the date. Now, it's, you know, it's the middle of the country. Everyone could come to one place. And we saw later. We didn't realize. I went to school there, so I'm used to the city. But we didn't, you know, again, like I wish everyone here could see. When you hear about how people love Fairly Well, it wasn't just the shows. It was Imagine a Festival. We all gone to festivals. Imagine a Festival's taking over full urban Chicago. When the airplanes were landing, you know, they renamed the runways in O'Hare after Dead songs that weekend. Every plane landing, they were playing Dead songs. Man, everywhere you went in Chicago, because we did, you know, 72,009 plus all the others. So, you know, there obviously people in multiple nights, but we brought north of 100,000 people into a city, you know, in a condensed area. So everywhere you went, you would see them on the street, in a hotel, in a restaurant, deadheads. And that wouldn't have worked anywhere else.
In talking, you mentioned from the mayor down, and I thought that
Well,
was
so
a great
I went and met with Rama, man. Anyone who ever puts on some giant fucking thing, I would recommend, like, does it make a difference to go meet with the mayor, especially 6 months ago or a year ago? He's not dealing like now. I probably couldn't get in, you know. But it is a different city now, probably even that, you know. But I went and got in, and I told him how much this means to everybody, and that there are people coming from every state in America and all over the world. And you know what? It just showed. I just mean this because we know it works. When I went to Soldier Field later that day, I saw the mayor earlier today. They had gotten a call from the mayor's office, to the mayor's #2 guy, just to make sure they knew, you know, because I also gave a lot of credit. Soldier Field, Tim Lefevre deserves a lot of credit. The guy who runs it has been there forever, and he was behind this event. And when we would meet with Homeland Security, special events, mayor's office, police, fire, all that, we had a meeting once with 70 people, a room, it wasn't quite this many people close. And when he spoke and he believed in the event, they listened and they trusted him. I used to say, man, we agreed, like, if some new guy was in running Soldier Field, we'd be fucked. So he got them all, because the way, if police is playing zone defense in back and letting people go do their thing, then people are cool. And the weather was cool, and the police are cool. But if the police are aggressive, I just felt that was where we needed to start. And the mayor's office, so Soldier Field told us they got a call from the mayor's office.
And for what it's worth, I mean, we were the third biggest, I mean, we weren't even the main attraction in Chicago. I mean, Chicago, that's the magic of being, living in America. I mean, we came in, and we're like, and they're like, fuck you idiots, you do 1 million people for the
But it was,
fireworks,
they treated it like
800 yards up the road, don't worry.
But they said that the mayor's office called Soldier Field to say, A, that they thank you, because I give them a lot of compliments. But there was a note, and it was heard at Soldier Field, and the police were, this is an important event. This is important for the city. Try to, you know, let's have this go, you know, and I think to this day it made a difference in that. How you can imagine all these deadheads, people smoking weed all over the place. We had 2 weed arrests for the whole event.
Wow.
What did they do to be so
They
caught?
just caught.
It was fun.
Well, they went to the mayor, you know, a message has to come from the top.
Yeah.
Down here to down here to down here, and it got here. And they knew to look for, to play zone defense.
And once the fans knew that, and knew that no one
And
was
they were
after them,
happy,
then
and they don't have issues. They don't fuck with the cops. And the cops don't fuck back. If there's tension will immediately leads to more tension. It also happens that it was 74 degrees and perfect when it's humid. A lot of things have to break the right way for an event like that. But, you know, that was huge.
Let's talk about the biggest waiting room in the history for Ticketmaster. 500,000 people in line. Was the plan always to add the base shows, or was just the demand just so overwhelming you guys felt like, we gotta do more, we gotta try and
No,
get
it's
some more
always
people in?
just to do Chicago. And then we saw it. We
It
were
was literally,
we
500,000
were
people in the waiting
again,
room.
to have the weekend we had, it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't had it in California, because everyone was fucking coming, and everyone didn't have a ticket, and we knew it would be a problem. And
the city was concerned with that, actually. The city had July 4th in Chicago's big. We had this great idea, we'd do the Great American Band, their return to the last place they played on a Great American holiday, but the city wasn't pleased that we picked July 4th because they had a White Sox game, a Cubs game, and the biggest fireworks display of people in the country, so they were pissed.
Great Cubs game, though.
Big Cubs game.
I think a big reason why the band didn't need to do it was at that point, all the crazy mail order stuff had happened, and I believe that Bob Weir actually went into the house where the envelopes were and saw it and was like, holy shit, how could we, it felt like, at that point it felt like it would have been a disservice to people in California who were still connected to the band and the band still lived there. It was just,
We also learned one other thing. When you have a fan who at 12:01, if you do an on sale at noon, and at 12:01 it gets all sold out, they're pissed. They're not like, oh, it's sold out. They're pissed. And we took the brunt of it. To be honest, they yelled like, and it was gone. 200,000. We could have sold. They told us we think we could. We could have sold millions of tickets. Like people who didn't get it were pissed. We could have gotten probably 20, 30 shows sold very easy. But it didn't matter about that part. People were pissed. It was 12:01. It was gone. Part of the technology and wait rooms and the system. I mean, if you went out, you couldn't get it. So you were there, you didn't get tickets, you were pissed. And they let us know, and we said the only way to relieve that is we need to do more shows. And we went to the band and we said we should go back to where you started. That was the idea, really, why going back to it's going to end in Chicago, it's ended where it ended. Let's start where it started. We got lucky that the venue was available the weekend before. It was Gay Pride weekend in San Francisco. We looked at the park. We couldn't get the park because of Gay Pride. Santa Clara, one benefit is it's fucking a huge stadium. We got some flack for doing these brand new football stadiums, but I'll tell you, from a tech point of view, and we ended up using it, these LED screens that these brand new football stadiums have are fucking off the chain. And we didn't even know how good it was until we got to California. We did the two big ones for the show, and we used the football ones. The moment we saw it, we were like, we have to call Chicago, Soldier Field, so we can tell them we're on the screen. It wasn't planned. Drums in Space, The Dead. Imagine the power now if you can use a giant LED across from the stage on that side for all the people that are in the far parts of the stadium to look right up. You were there, right? It was a game changer.
there was like one half the amount of people taking a piss during drums in space.
One thing we haven't touched on, which is probably worth pointing out, what I think also sort of added to the whole thing. So we sat about a year before, so I watched a bunch of sort of the arc of this. Pete was looking at doing a few nights in New York, a few nights in the Bay Area, maybe Oakland. And I remember we were at one of our favorite restaurants having dinner one night. Maybe it was after, it was before the TV on the radio thing. And he said to me, trying to get the Dead back together. And and I was thinking about this earlier. So we all have friends, right? Who they aspire to do lots of stuff, and like 60% of it never materializes. As long as I've known Pete, everything he's ever told me he was going to do has materialized. I'm going to open a Brooklyn Bowl in London. I'm going to buy the Capitol Theater. I'm going to reunite the Dead. So I'm like at dinner with him, and I'm thinking like, he's going to reunite the Dead, right? So he says to me, "Who do you think should sing? Who's going to be the singer and guitar player?" And I looked at him and I said, "Warren Haynes." And he looked at me and he said, "Red hair." And I said, "Top."
I said Big Red.
He goes, "No, Tread." And I was like, holy shit, that is.
Did he get him?
And I think that also really added to the whole thing. Kind of trade.
So your eye for details on this is amazing. I mean, I was lucky enough to be able to get in and see the shows, and I think the issue of how would Jerry feel about the reunion was killed before it ever got started, because you got Trixie, Jerry's daughter, to do the announcement video. And I don't know whose idea that was, but it was fucking brilliant. You guys talk about that? Because like having the families aboard, but you squash that from the get-go.
was 100% Chappie's. Not only was it Trixie, but it was Bill Kreutzmann's son who filmed it. So it was for us being kind of their crew, and I've been friends of theirs for a long time, to have the kind of kids feel good about it, I think was really important to us. And once they gave the kind of tacit.
Yeah, it's hard to do this stuff in a message board world. So it helps when you're doing it and you're with Jerry's daughter.
That video is incredible. It went viral in seconds.
Yeah, but it's hard to do this kind of stuff we learned a lot doing this. I'm glad to be out of it. That part when it ended, I was happy to be out because it was so big and we couldn't control it. You can't control the social media world. It's very powerful when it goes viral. And you can't control it. And we saw that with that whole rainbow thing you joked about, just how quickly fucking shit spreads.
You talked about
How
social media.
stupid people
But you said not only the fans were fooled if this wasn't real or not, you said band members were emailing like, dude, it's fun, is this real? What can you do?
We should pull out a Mickey email.
Was Mickey?
Now he wrote me, he said, I know you really did it. Tell me. No, just Jerry did, and then it's good to have Jerry's daughter there all the time. It's good to have someone to ask, to turn to. That's who knows the truth.
This one comes from Don Sullivan. If you guys could have done anything different or doing anything not perfect, what eye detail would have been fixed had you been able to redo it? Particularly game of Don, he was looking for something, but what would you done differently or what didn't go perfectly?
I know. The first nights of the escape, of the exit, 72,000 people. So Soldier Field is set up. They do football games, Bears football games, and they do huge amounts of people. But after the game, people head south, people head west, people head north, people park. After Grateful Dead's 50th anniversary show, everyone goes fucking north to the hotels. No one goes south, no one goes west. So they weren't ready, that's just one.
Yeah, that sea of people was awesome.
The sea of people. And no one drove. It was in the press, the anticipation of let camping go. What were you do with the lots? And we worked on all that. It was interesting. We didn't have the cars they have for the Bears game. And it was that exit. But that goes back to like when you start a new festival, you start a new venue. We did night one, we adjusted for night two. But they weren't ready, we just hadn't thought through. They had, at the city did, every single person there was heading north. So, and when they usually have big events, even Taylor Swift show, any kind of concert, they said people headed south and west. But after this event, people come from around America to stay in a hotel and come to this. They were up one of those hotels that are just north, which is interesting. But that's obvious now. But we really realized, I think they realized, that everyone realized in the police that minute after the first night. And you can adjust for night two.
Yeah, I know that we talk about this for hours, and a lot of people in the room have questions, and there's another session after us. So we'll go ahead and get a couple of questions. Anybody's got questions, raise your hand. Think we can get like 2 in, Jim, or 3? We got a little time for that? Okay, so like 3 questions, and then we'll jump into that session. Anybody?
Questions? Really?
Awesome.
Go ahead. I don't get a microphone.
Hello, everybody. Greg Schmalley, so I'll take it with me. Just So I want to dig in a little bit because it was interesting because, Peter, you said you love having the ticketing company that you can put the blame on and you can throw everything on Dreskin. And then Luba said he loves the fact that he could just have all, like he had control. Where's that balance between the two of you guys? Like, to try to put it out, like, how much control do you want, but to a certain extent to say, like, to a certain point, you can also put blame on if something gets screwed up, it's not all on you. Here, let me give you the mic back.
You're so sad.
Well, Greg, as you all know, I once had a meeting with the guy who was at that point, the chairman of Ticketmaster, and I walked in, I'm like, man, there's a bunch of kids at your shows, and they're wearing like Ticket Bastard shirts, and don't you want to do something about it? And he looked at me and he's like, we are built to be Ticket Bastard, you moron. That's why we're here. Because you greedy managers, you greedy agents, you greedy bands. We are the firm for you guys to take all the heat. And at that moment I was like, oh shit, he's probably right. So we better be accountable for our own stuff, or we were full of shit. And so I think we probably come from the same space, but there's no one who probably dislikes Ticketmaster as much as I do, but they, as far as I'm concerned, they've been totally straight about exactly what their role was. They do a really good job at what they do. And to call it anything else is completely bullshit.
I would say,
Your mic's still
my
working.
good friend,
I'd say right now, if I was more than I am, I think it makes sense to use a third-party ticketing provider. But I'll be honest, he's my good friend. I was his first
Andrew,
customer.
you
He already got paid out, so I
first.
don't- but down the road, I'm not sure that's true. Commodity, technology changes, I don't need it, but right now, I do think, like, if we were re-signing now, we are, like, I think it makes sense to use the company that has 100 engineers, and use someone that you can blame, and use someone that have great marketing, so it's smart people. Amy's my friend, I always say, if they're texting me midnight, they'll respond, it makes sense. You've already done the deal, so I can say it. I'm not sure what the future. The future, though, I think for venue owners and promoters, I'm sure technology's moving fast. Gordon's thought that times two, like, there's gonna be a time at this conference, in a couple of years, in 5 years, where we're all gonna be able to do our own ticketing. And keep all the service fee. We don't know what the game is.
Here's my view. I don't even mind. Here's my view on this. This is the Patron talk.
Give him another shot.
Look, I think we've joked around here a bit, and back in the day, as I mentioned, Mike and I joked around a lot about the string cheese ticket back travails. I told you I had Smashing Pumpkins travails, I had Allman Brothers travails, I had Spice Girls travails, but look here, let's look at the positive, right, Greg? So to sort of like ticketing companies unite, right? So Forest Hill Stadium, one of our clients, goes on sale the first year, venue no one knows. Did you run an ad that whole year? So we, there was very little advertising. And you almost sold out every show with basically no advertising. And I think
The world's greatest promoter, Dreskin.
of course it was only your promotion prowess. The technology company had nothing to do with it. But look, I think, as I mentioned earlier, the DIY movement. I don't want to debate DIY versus not, but DIY is look. Reality is Songkick's an amazing company. Tens and tens and tens of engineers, Ticketfly, Ticketmaster, others. I think technology companies are going to be here for the foreseeable future in the lives of venues and promoters.
One more for you, Mike, then we'll call it a day. How do you guys pick the city for the Gentlemen on the Road tour? Like, they seem to be random as fuck. You guys go to Dart and map and go, we're going to Steiny.
We go around the world and try as hard as we can to scare little towns out of doing it. And whatever towns, no matter how horrifying we try to portray it as, are still, we're in. That's where we end up. It's that simple. And it makes all the difference. It all goes back to the same thing. Without buy-in from the towns, the mayors, the folks who do all the real work, the actual communities, it's not doable. And when it is, really, when music is embraced and live music is embraced, magic shit happens. And that's, I think, why we all keep doing it. I'm sure that's why everyone who's here keeps doing it. And yeah, that's it, man. We tell people the truth. It's a complete boondoggle, and if you're willing to jump off the cliff with us. Thank you.
Hey, give him a hand. Andrew.